Okay, this is a class for the Texas Association of Professional Bee Removers, and it is on how to remove and restore cement fiberboard siding, specifically when going through a floor joist. Typically here in South Texas, we have a brick, which this is simulated brick on the first story, and we have siding on the second story. People say you can't remove HardiPlank. That's not true. With the right technique, the right tools, the right material, and the right attitude, you can do so. First of all, you want to determine where the colony is, and you might, I don't know if you need to tilt this or not, but you can use your infrared camera. It's so hot out right now that it's really not much use outside the house, so I like to drill skinny holes and use a probe wire, or you can use a short drill bit. Keep in mind that anytime you're cutting or drilling into something, you should always assume that there is a live wire or a water pipe, something else that's going to do tremendous damage where you can't see it. So determine where the bees are, and then you want to make your cuts a little bit larger, because what if they run over to the next floor joist, or what if it's built a little bit and you didn't see it or didn't detect it in that other floor joist. So you want to make it a little bit bigger than normal. To make your cuts look nice and professional, always mark them with a 90-degree, cut them at a vertical, stagger them as much as you can. Better a little bit too much stagger than too little stagger, and that way it'll look professional. Of course, when you cut, you might use an angle grinder with a cutoff wheel. Notice that the safety shield I've cut back instead of 180 degrees to 90 degrees. This allows me to get into tight corners, particularly useful on soffits. You can use a cutoff wheel for masonry, diamond blade wheels. You can use an oscillating tool with a carbide blade, or you can just use regular blades, and when they wear out, take your angle grinder, make new notches, or just order them by the dozen, or about $1.50 when you order them by the 2 dozen, 3 dozen at a time on Amazon. These will leave burrs here in the cuts. They look bad. Just take the back of your razor knife or anything like that, move it out. There you go, like that. There you go, like that. Or even your fingernail. Of course, you'll end up with no fingernails after a while. Then you remove the nails. There's 4 different ways you can remove the nails. When I first started off, what I would do is I would take my bars and scoot up right above here, each side of the nail with my hive tool. Take a Sawzall with a long skinny blade and go behind it. And do it like that. The other way is, and you can also do this when it's blind nail. Blind nailing is when the nails are back here. Take a regular pry bar, straighten it out so it becomes an extra long hive tool, and you can do the same thing, going up in there until you can feel where those nails are, and using the Sawzall once again to get up there to cut those nails. The other thing that you can do is grab it with the cat's paw, get it out, and with as small as a cat's paw as you can, take it and grab the nail like that, tap it so it gets a bite. Now put that in, and now the nail, just pull it out, boom, like that. The other thing you can do is just gouge it like it's regular wood. Take your cat's paw, takes patience, don't get in a hurry. Sometimes these will just come out with your fingers because they use such skinny nails. Now, if you're cutting the trim board, once again, you want to stagger your cuts. You want one on this side and then the other one either down here or above here. You don't want two cuts on the side like this, right next to each other. It'll look bad. When you make the cut, make it right on the edge of above the lip of this. That way, when you put it back, both the top and the bottom piece of trim have something to rest against, and they will line up. Otherwise, you'll have to use shims or something like that to get each one of them to line up. Just pry it off after you've cut it. Once again, using your 90° to make that mark. And there, we have that like that. I usually will start off, since I'm almost always remove two boards, I'll start my cut, my first one right here, because I'm going to have to gouge this one a little bit. And I'll take this one off first instead of the other one. Now, the other way you can remove these is a lot of times they overdrive it, and you're trying to get it, and it just pops right through. Hey, that's great. No, not a problem. You can take care of that. There's another technique that you can use sometimes is this nail. You want to get rid of it. There's no way to get to it quite good. You can use a, I've got this just tremendously stood off, but you can use just a regular angle grinder, arbor, and a metal cutoff wheel. You can go back there. You can get this. There. So take this board off. Oh, Mark, you're ripping through the nails up there. That's okay. We can cut them off later. Okay. Now I want to continue this cut. Now we want to cut our tar paper. We've already got a cut here. I could use that, or I could preferably make my own cut right here, lift it up, and I'm going to find one of three things. Okay, and I would tape this up. Here we see our subfloor. We see the bottom plate for the next stud wall, and then we're going to see one of a couple of different things here. We're either going to see a rim joist, and that rim joist, I've seen everything from 1x4s, 1, 2, or 3 1x4s. 3 2x4s are typical. This is scaled down, so I'm only using 2 2x4s. Sometimes the floor joist is way up here, but the siding continues down, and so they'll put things like a nailer back in there, and so you'll see this. And sometimes you won't see any of this. The floor joist just comes straight out and they nailed into the floor joist. Whatever it is you see, you know, it's not going to be a problem. Now, once we get this out of the way, we need to go through our rim joist here. Now I've done 1 inch, 1 foot joist just for scale. We want to cut the rim joist. I'm not going to cut all of them. One thing that you can do, it's very elegant, is take your multi-tool. See, here I've got a joist, here I've got a joist, and there I've got a joist, okay? And just make a cut right there next to where the nails are. And if you do it right, hopefully it will match, and you'll have ability to put it back in the same spot. Sorry, I should have had that done ahead of time. But now I can take my hive tool or pry bar and get in there. Now you might have noticed that when I cut that, I cut it at an angle, because if I try and swing this out and I cut it at a straight 90, it's going to swing and it's going to hit on the other pieces of it. Oh my, what have I got here? I've got nails up in the top through the subflooring. Oh, well, that's going to be a problem now, isn't it? Well, not really. Where's my hammer? There. We can take care of that because we have the tools, we have the material, and we have the methods, techniques. What's Mark doing here? He's creating a little bit of space for my cutoff wheel. Now, hopefully, I should be able to pry that out now. There we go. Whoop. Don't want to tilt the whole boat over. There. Then do the same thing here. Oh, look. Well, look, I've missed my joist. So I'm not going to have a solid surface when I put that back. When I put that back, I'm going to put a nailing block or something similar in there, glue it and screw it, and I'll have something solid to rest the other one on. I'm not going to take this other one out. You see, everybody knows how to do that now. Well, if you get in the middle here, if you want to do that, that's okay too. Just use this splice block on the back side of it, nail it, and glue it and screw it. I'm sorry, not nail it, glue it and screw it. Okay. What else? If you don't have a cutoff tool, you can use a Sawzall with a metal blade, cut these, but please, please, a short 2-inch blade, because I can't tell you how many times people told me that they had a pipe that was right here and they cut it. So let's see, all right, put the rim joist back. Already showed you how to do that. Use liquid nails. Here's a tip when you're putting the rim joist back. Say if this is a piece of your rim joist, and when you put it back, you're going to put liquid nails here, you're going to put liquid nails here, liquid nails here, and you want to get some fastener up into this subflooring again. Well, what you can do is, you know, run screws like that. You want to don't want to use a 4-inch screw, maybe a little bit shorter, but put a screw in at 90 degrees and then back it out, and now you've got a little pilot hole to start, and you can drill it at 45 degrees. But it might not come out exactly where you want it. That came out good, but instead, why not just do that same thing, start the pilot hole and where you want it to come out, and then shoot the nail in after you've already got a hole for that. Okay. All right, now we want to put the tar paper back. We don't want any leaks. So when you put this back, I would suggest using something to seal this up. I like to use this rubberized flashing. It's expensive, but I'm getting paid a lot of money. Okay. And just do that, and that stuff is really good. You can use duct tape. You could just use regular tar paper. Put another sheet of tar paper over that, tack it in there with some roofing nails. Okay. One thing that I didn't mention earlier was that a lot of times when you're taking this apart, you want to make sure everything lines up when you. So yeah. So here it is. When you, a lot of times before you take things apart, you might want to put a pencil mark and make a match line so that when you're putting things back, everything matches together. Okay. So seal the tar paper, replace the cement board, the match marks. All right. Now, sometimes you might have a long cement board put back. You want to take them off, put them back from the bottom to the top. It's much easier to do it that way. I hardly ever will use nails on cement boards. These are usually old and brittle, and I'm trying to pound it with a hammer, and it's going to break. That's why I like to use screws. Okay. So to put these back, in fact, I got a little helper there. I got a little bit of my nail head still left. Okay. It might have been helpful to put some match marks over here, but I've got this line that I can follow from the dust created earlier, and I can use that. Okay. One thing I can do is take the old nails and put them in the old spots and get everything perfectly lined up. Now, you might want to, Francis, tell me if this comes in. I use typically 3 types of screws. I use these Spax. Is that coming in? Mm-hmm. All right. These Spax, S-P-A-X, they have a kind of flattened square point, and that will drill even through Hardy board. It will drill. And there are 2 sizes. These long ones, that's good for those trim boards. The shorter ones, that's good for the HardiPlank siding or cement fiberboard siding, excuse me. And then they make a even shorter version of that, and that's good for little tiny places, small boards that aren't too heavy. These are going to be practically invisible once you get them in there. Now, Spax also makes one that doesn't drill very well. It's just got a regular screw tip, but it uses the same head driver. And this is really big for when you want to fill up those gouge holes. It'll pretty much fill those gouge holes up. So put this back on. How are we doing on time there? 10 minutes? Okay, that's good. All right. So we use some of these. Now, say what if you've got a long board and you need to put that back and you don't have any way of holding. They make special holders for these, but they're expensive. And in my truck, it's hard to find them because everything is disorganized. Seeing a little bit of caulk on that, you won't see it. Look, here's that one of those big gouge marks. I'm going to use one of those fat screws. I've already got a hole here, so that's beautiful for me. And that pretty much fills in that gouge mark. And then once I put some silicone caulk on that, you won't be able to see it. All right. Now, what if you had one of those long boards and you need someone to hold the other end? Well, remember, you've got screws. And you can get that up in there. Oh, wait a minute. Did I cut those off? No. Take your angle grinder, and this is why I have it. And another thing that you can do with your angle grinder, this is helpful too, is put a spacer wheel on the back side of this. Put a spacer wheel, and that makes this stand out even more, so you can get a pretty close to flush cut. Now, this corner broke off, and it may prevent this other piece up in there from matching. I can either hit that with a bar or something and break it off, or cut this off. It's above the line. See that? Metal cutting wheel doesn't work nearly as well as the other wheel does. Okay, see that how that screw holds that? Get this all matched up, put everything back, put this back the way it was. Now I'm going to try and use these again if I can. When you take these off, if you've got a blowout in the back, use your angle grinder to grind it flat. Put everything back, okay? So voila, like that. Now, what about caulking it? Okay. I use mainly clear 100% silicone. But Mark, you can't paint over clear 100% silicone. This is true. But once it dries, you can put latex caulk over it. The nice thing about the latex is it is paintable. They do make a paintable version of 100% silicone. It comes in pure white, and it's not always available. Plus, it's kind of expensive. The other thing I like to use, or I carry about 20 different types of caulk with me, but these are the main ones I use. Clear silicone, antique white, almond, and liquid nails or other type construction adhesive. In fact, liquid nails is not only a good glue, it's a good caulk. And sometimes it actually matches the paint. So a lot of times this almond or antique white will actually match your paint. Now, Mark, what if you drop it and it breaks? Oh my goodness. There you go. Just take a splice, some liquid nails on there, and you can see that the liquid nail in here, it, like most water-based caulks, it shrinks as it dries and reveals the cracks. But I put some of that clear silicone over there or other non-shrinking caulk, and then I can take my caulk gun Can you see this? Is it on the camera? And once that dries, I defy anyone to tell me where that crack was. I mean, once it dries and it gets painted, I defy anyone to tell me where the crack was. Now, There's nothing that says you can't use, your regular old construction screws. The problem is that the heads are not made for the boards that we're using. But if you countersink them, and you can countersink them any number of ways, I mean, even taking your knife and the back edge of your knife and just take it like this, and that'll countersink. You can use a glass ceramic tile drill, create a countersink. You can buy a countersink. You can buy one of these step drills, anything, just make a countersink and a pilot hole, and you'll be able to use the regular style construction screws. I hope I've covered everything. I hope I haven't forgotten anything. If you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and ask. All right. Oh, sorry, step back. All right, that's it. That's the class. Bye.
You got 4 more minutes.
Oh, are there any questions?
That was good, Mark.
I kept telling him to slow down.
Well done.
I was trying to move it as fast as I could.
If it had gone much slower, I don't think you'd have gotten done in time.
Right.
And it's the rain here, so.
Well, you did a great job. Thank you. That was great. I took a couple of screenshots and posted one of them to the group.
Nice.
Yeah. So
I like your technique on using the cat's claw to pull out nails. I do the exact same thing.
you mean
I grab a
from
hold of them underneath.
grabbing them from the back and then
Yeah.
push them out? Yeah, the
Push them
problem
out.
with pushing them out from the back is they always sink the nails. And James Hardy, their website says you don't sink the nails, you face nail. You always leave the head proud of the surface, because
Right.
you get that blowout in the back. And yet I always see that. The other thing that James Hardy says, and this is a manufacturer requirement, anytime there is a field butt joint like this, a butt joint in the field, the ends have to be primed, they have to be painted, and there has to be a weather strip behind it, either a piece of tar paper or a piece of tin that they sell that's just the right size. I have never seen that.
Me neither.
It's been their requirement since 2008. Oh, well. Okay.
So for that third board, I used to gouge that as well in order to make that clean cut underneath from the second board. But
Right.
once I realized that all I have to do is cut all the way up to that third board, and
Right.
then that Hardy will actually break off and you won't even see it.
Usually, but I've got everything so screwed in tight here.
Mhm.
Usually it'll break off in this direction. So
Right.
yeah, so what I end up doing is instead of having a wing cut off here, I have the wing sticking off there, and I just break it off and it goes right back up there, and you never know it.
Right. A lot of times I use it as a hanger. I'll leave that wing on there, and it'll work as a great hanger.
If they'll match up, if the
Yeah.
pieces match up well, sometimes though the rough edges and creates an effect where you put it back up there and it actually ends up higher than the other one. Now, something I didn't mention is if it's on there crooked, I put it back crooked. I don't try and make it better than it was. I'll be there all night.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, well,
Well done.
thank you guys. I wanted to have that all in a video, but I just was overcome by events. I had my roof done here recently and everything. You want to look at $35,000 worth of roof.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
they replaced the plywood too in one day.
Wow.
in one day.
What?
Yeah.
They did the whole thing in one day.
And 10 guys. and took it down to the rafters and put new plywood and new things up. And they had 2 more guys that had to come back and finish a little bit. They worked till 8:30 that night, and they got it almost all done, but not quite. But anyway,
Wow.
that
That's impressive. How
quite
many squares?
was shit. I can't remember. I can't remember.
Is it like over 30?
I don't remember. Man, I think
Oh.
it was 28 or something, but I'm not
Oh,
sure.
okay. Still, 28's a lot. That's a good number.
Well, it's a weird roof. It had all those weird angles too.
Yeah.
Yeah, little interesting cuts. Anyway, okay. Well, I hope that some of that was helpful to some people.
It's going to be helpful. It was well presented.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. That was good.
Yeah. Well, Brittany was the one that it was her idea for, a class on or presentation on that topic matter. And I don't think she's in it. She got to partake of it, but she can get it later.
Watch the video later, yeah.
Yeah, she can watch it later. Thank you. Thank you for recording that, Chris.
Oh, sure, no problem.
Well,
Like